Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So today's video is another part in the series I'm doing all about what you should be doing during your wedding planning process for each month of the wedding planning process. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I'll link the last one here, and I also have a whole playlist that has all of these videos in there so you can watch by month, by time period, based on where you're at in your wedding planning. So today's video is what you should be doing 2 to 3 months before your wedding date. Time period, this is when you want to make sure you have all of your bridal accessories picked out. So your veil, your shoes, your jewelry, any other accessories that you're going to have a garter if you're planning on doing a garter toss later in the evening, and any other accessories you might need for your hair or otherwise. Also a good tip here, if you do have your bridal shoes or your wedding shoes already, wear them around the house a little bit before your wedding day so that you can kind of wear them in and see if maybe there's parts that might rub your feet, and make sure that they're broken in a little bit prior to your wedding day. On a similar note, make sure all your bridesmaids have their dresses and they're getting them into seamstresses if they do need any sort of alterations, like a hem or any minor alterations. Speaking of fittings, this is also when you will likely be having at least one of your fittings. This is usually the time period where you're going in to do alterations for your wedding dress and making sure that it is completely fitted to you. If you haven't done so already, which we mentioned this in the previous video, also do your hair and makeup trial. And hot tip, if you're able to do those last two things on the same day, have your hair and makeup trial and attend one of your bridal fittings on the same day, then that way you can see kind of what the whole look will look like when you have your hair and makeup done and you're trying on your wedding dress. So if you're able to coordinate those on the same day, then that's super helpful to be able to get a really good idea of what your whole bridal look will be for the wedding day. A big portion of the planning process during this time frame is a lot of your ceremony details. So figuring out exactly what you want to happen during the ceremony. If you guys are having a ceremony in a church and it's a pretty traditional wedding ceremony, then a lot of that will likely be taken care of by whoever is in charge of coordinating churches at that wedding, or maybe your pastor, whoever is officiating. However, if you are not having the traditional church wedding and you are sort of planning and figuring this out for yourselves, this is the time where you want to kind of come up with a little bit of a script, work with your officiant, whoever is going to be officiating your ceremony, whether it's an actual pastor or somebody that does that for a living, or a friend of yours or a family member who is getting ordained for the occasion. Have that conversation with them and kind of work through what you would like to have happen at the ceremony, and also a kind of a schedule and a timeline for the ceremony if you guys plan on having readers. Choose and select those and notify them, give them the reading material that you want them to present at the ceremony. Determine if you're going to have any sort of unity ceremony, like you're going to light a candle or pour sand or do any other type of unity ceremony that has some meaning to you. And any music, if you're going to have live music, make sure you're coordinating that with musicians. If you're going to have any interlude music for taking communion or anything like that, these are all the details that you should be working through during this time frame. Additionally, you should start writing your vows if you haven't already. If you are writing your own vows, of course, this is the time to start working through those. You can give yourself a couple of rough drafts, just start jotting down ideas. That way you don't have so much pressure to try and write your vows at the last minute. I have seen so many couples that are, we're at the rehearsal dinner, we're at the rehearsal, and they haven't even finished writing their vows yet, and that just seems so stressful to me. So start writing down, at least get some ideas down on paper during this time. You also want to determine the standing order for your ceremony if you haven't already. So what order your bridesmaids and groomsmen will walk down the aisle, the pairings for that, so that you have that all squared away, so that you can either send that to your wedding planner or make sure that you know in your mind, so that when you are going for your rehearsal, you have all of that figured out prior to the rehearsal, so you can just bang it out. This is usually a time frame where bachelorette parties and bridal showers take place, usually about 2 to 3 months before the wedding day. Of course, you can do this whenever you wish. This is just kind of a standard time frame for when a lot of these events happen prior to the wedding day. Also, make sure to update your wedding website if that's something that you have, with any pertinent information that isn't already on there. This could be directions, making sure that people that are traveling from out of state have all of the information they need, the hotel information. If you are having any planned activities for a lot of your out of town guests, Those will go up on your wedding website, or even just some suggestions on activities that guests can do either prior to or after the wedding if they're making a little vacation out of it. Having some of those suggestions and directions and all of that for your guests on your wedding website is a good time to have all of that done. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of it. You're only 2 to 3 months away from your wedding. A lot of the big stuff has been taken care of, and now it's just fine-tuning all of those little details, which we'll do even more in the next video. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice, and we'll see you next week.